2 weeks until Fire Emblem Engage launches, and holy crap, things keep getting more and more exciting. On Wednesday, I had a single line of new info for this game within the past week, but on Thursday, we got bombarded with an absurd amount of early preview footage and reviews. People with early game access revealed the preview embargo has been lifted, and they were freely able to talk about everything up till Chapter 8 of the game. If you do not want to watch hours and hours of footage, but want to know if anything new has been revealed, then that's what this video is for. I will link every single video I reference in the description if you want the full experience. I have definitely consumed an unhealthy amount of Engage footage in the past day. For the most part, reviewers went over the basics of the game, which we've covered in past episodes of this series. If you have not seen those, I have links in the description. Give them a watch if you want a full breakdown on game mechanics, features, and characters. Like last week, my focus is on showcasing new information, and good God, there was a lot to take in. I think most people agree that the English promotion for the game has kind of been lacking, but with these early looks, there is a ton to be excited about. This game looks amazing. I have a couple random things to discuss before we deep dive into Engage. First off, for my Fire Emblem Heroes players, to avoid conflicting with the release of Engage on the 20th, Choose Your Legend 7 has already begun voting today. Usually voting takes place the week and a half leading up to the February 2nd anniversary, so we get the results in the Faye channel. Everyone was wondering if Engage's cast would be eligible, and the answer is no. To make space for the game's launch, CYL voting starts early. Get those votes in, and next year Engage's characters will probably place very high. Next thing I want to discuss is the main theme for Fire Emblem Engage. For obvious reasons, I will not be playing it here, but some of the reviewers have showcased large portions of the opening cinematic accompanied by what most assume is the main theme song for the game. It is something. As far as I know, we've only heard the English version of the song, but a Japanese commercial also had a different, slower version with Japanese lyrics. That one was much more dramatic, and I assume was some kind of serious remix for the game. The actual theme itself is incredibly upbeat rock and roll, and they literally shout in the song Emblem Engage. It absolutely borders on that anime opening corniness, and someone described it like an old school Power Rangers type theme. I agree with that sentiment because despite the silliness and over-the-top feeling, it's kinda hype. I will leave links in the description for you to listen to it yourself. Let me know what you think. I want to go over some features the official Japanese Twitter account showcased. They mentioned that army units cannot be broken via the weapon triangle. That is a very strong class perk to make up for their low movement and lower resistance. This feature actually has been present in gameplay before, I just never connected the dots. I always thought it had something to do with the break mechanic itself not always activating, but it seems break is a for sure thing unless you can counter it. As a reminder, army units can still be broken if you smash them into a wall or another foe. Something else that was showcased is that you can light bonfires to reveal Fog of War. We have the Illume Staff to also reveal Fog of War within 7 spaces, and torches also exist. Interestingly, Micaiah's Shine Tome reveals Fog of War as well. Something that wasn't explained but seen in the clip is that units couldn't move into the Fog of War itself. That is unusual. Perhaps it was just a cavalry specific thing. Moving on, I want to discuss some things I noticed from watching gameplay. Broken units can still dodge, they aren't completely defenseless. It also seemed like dealing 0 damage does not break a unit. Multiple times, Vander gets attacked by a sword user, takes no damage, and does not get broken. For some other details, there seems to be some kind of frozen status. One of Sigurd's skills makes you immune to freeze. We've seen ice obstacles on the map, but I don't know if they freeze units if you move on top of them or what. Perhaps it's just a movement penalty and Sigurd can just push right past ice blocks. Now, not a new feature, but we got to see multiple HP bars in action. Hortensia is a boss character with the red diamond under her HP bar. You take her out once, then she full heals, and you gotta do it again. Next, a couple players showcased a new on-field user interface that looked really cool. You could choose to see the type of the unit, their physical attack and defense, magical attack and res, hit and avoid rates, and more. This actually looks like a great addition, especially for learning what each class type does. For example, you can be reminded on the fly that arm units can't be broken normally, backup units do chain attacks, or covert units just get double terrain bonuses. More information at a glance is great when you're still learning. Another feature to help newer players is that there is an optimized equipment function. That's nice for people who aren't so familiar with Fire Emblem, I suppose. On the topic of newer players, for those that don't want to bother resetting maps, if you came over, you can retain experience before restarting the map. Now that is pretty crazy. I saw a comment mention that this feature could also just be a sort of failsafe if a player progresses through the story without doing the optional skirmishes for grinding. For example, if you're just very underleveled, this can let them farm the current level. Like with the Draconic Time Crystal, you don't have to use this if you don't want to. If you're a hardcore Fire Emblem veteran, then it appears Maddening mode is available from day one. Reminder, there is also normal and hard difficulties. Before we move on, I want to talk about the after battle exploration feature. A lot of people seem to really like this, and it did look really neat and polished. After battles, you get to run around the actual 3D map you just fought on and explore. Characters can be talked to, you can find items and materials, plus you can adopt pets. Some pets can only be adopted if you raise the investment level of the nation high enough. Reminder, this is a mechanic in the Somniel where you can donate to each nation, which increases spawn rates of rarer enemies, plus more materials, and now obviously adopting more pets. On the topic of the 3D battlefield, something that is so minuscule but fascinated me was the environment is destructible in battle. I'm not talking about actual gameplay obstacles, which do exist. I mean objects that are purely visual. If there is a fence between the unit and the enemy, you can break the fence when attacking. That is such a not important feature, but it's one of the many small details that Engage really dials in. This game is extremely polished. Next up, we learned a crap ton of class information, mainly advanced class skills, but also confirmation of more promoted classes. I want to go over everything, so strap in. First off, unless it's being hidden from us, there only seems to be basic and advanced classes, 2 tiers. It is very possible we're expecting to use a lot of sacred seals to try new classes. Additionally, once you learn an advanced class skill, you can equip it on any other class. However, I think you only get 1 class skill at a time. I don't believe being in an advanced class itself gives you the class skill to combo with. I could be wrong though. We also learned the Thief class is a special class, and I assume Dancer falls under the same category. First up, Swordmaster is an S-rank sword user, no surprise. Their skill is Run Through, which lets them attack and move to the opposite side of the enemy afterwards, kinda like a reverse reposition. I'm not sure how useful this skill is, sounds a bit dangerous to be honest. For the hero class, they have A rank swords, C rank in either lances or axes. Their skill is Brave Assist. If their HP is full and they're assisting in a chain attack, they attack twice. That's not bad and definitely synergizes with Emblem Lucina. Next up, we got confirmation the Halberdier class is back. The S rank infantry lance class is real and I'm very happy. Pincer attack states if unit initiates while an ally is on the opposite side of the foe, always follow up if the weapon allows it. Basically, this is a triangle attack, but with 2 units instead of 3. I guess it's more just like a line attack. Speaking of which, I don't know if the actual triangle attack mechanic is back. Moving on, another new class confirmed is the Royal Knight, A rank lances, C rank staff. This is a cavalry healer option, but they're limited by that C rank. Their skill is Reforge. If the unit's HP is 11 or more and an adjacent ally is broken after combat, sacrifice 10 HP and remove the break status from that ally. Reforge sounds pretty strong if you want to bait in mobs. For the Berserker, this is our S rank infantry axe user. Their skill is Smash Plus, which pushes targets 2 spaces away when inflicting smash. Honestly, I'm kinda interested in this skill since you can break enemies with smash. For the Warrior, they have A rank axes, C rank bows. Merciless lets them deal 50% damage against broken foes. That also sounds like a strong skill. Warriors seem like they'll be good for finishing off beefier targets you already broke. For the Sniper class, this is the S rank bow user. No distractions grants plus 10 crit during combat when the foe cannot counter. Pretty basic, but also remember it synergizes with the break status. I think technically a newly confirmed class is the Bow Knight, Cavalier with A rank bows, and then you get to choose C rank in either swords, axes, or lances. Their Careful Aim skill grants plus 40 hit if they initiate without moving. Seems a bit weird to benefit for not moving when you're on the High Mobility Archer class. I guess it does let you use less accurate weapons more. For the General, this is the Armored unit with A rank in either sword, axes, or lances. Their skill is simply Swap, which lets them switch places with an adjacent ally. Real nice to get a little extra mobility on the Armored unit, and they can just let them frontline for an ally. Next, we have the Great Knight, which is a cavalry unit, but also has the armor status. This just means they are weak to armor effective weapons. They are not also an armor type as well. The Great Knight gets B rank in 2 weapons of sword, axes, and lances. Their allied defense skill reduces damage by 3 if they're in between an ally and a foe when fighting. Basically, if they are the front line, they take less damage. For the paladins, these are the cavaliers with A rank in sword, axes, and lances. Their skill is pivot, which lets them move to the opposite side of an adjacent ally. This can extend their movement even more, or you just get in between allies and the enemy. Next up, the popular Wolf Knight class. This is a cavalry class with A rank daggers and B rank in either sword, axes, or lances. With the hobble skill, if Wolf Knights initiate with daggers, they inflict -2 movement on the foe for 1 turn. I feel like this could be abused with Emblem Sigurd's Canter, which lets you move 2 spaces after combat. Kinda seems like Nyla in Fae. For our aerial classes, we have the Griffin Knight replacing the usual Falcon Knight. They have A rank in either sword, axes, or lances, and then C rank in staff. Clear the Way states the unit's space and adjacent spaces have a movement cost of 1 for allies. For my Fae players, this sounds a lot like Pathfinder, but nerfed. As an example, if the Griffin Knight is near some forest tiles, they can let allies move through the forest faster since the movement cost is basically gone. Not a big range, but it could be useful for setting up certain type maps. Next, the Wyvern Knight is the Great Knight equivalent. They have B rank in 2 choices of sword, axes, or lances. And then along with Flyer weakness, they also have Dragon weakness too. This also applies to Ivy's unique class because she's a Wyvern mage. I assume more Dragon Killer weapons are present in the game, like Mart's classic Falchion. Alir also has that Dragon weakness. Is that some kind of foreshadowing? Back to the Wyvern Knight, their Air Raid skill grants +5 speed if they initiate combat from a space the foe cannot enter. Basically, if they fight on a tile that only other flyers can access, like water or just open sky. Pretty interesting ability. Now onto magic classes. The Sage is the infantry S rank tome user and they get B rank staffs too. Spell Harmony states if unit initiates combat with a tome, grant attack equal to the number of adjacent allies with tomes. Almost sounds like a Fae Blade Tome effect, but instead of field buffs, it's friendlies with tomes. I'm not sure if the ally has to be able to use tomes. Does this work if they just carry a tome in their inventory? Next, for the Mage Knight class, this is a cavalry unit with A rank tomes, B rank in either sword, axes, or lances. It's nice that they get a melee weapon too. Their Chaos Style skill states if unit initiates combat with a physical attack against a foe armed with magic, or vice versa, grant +3 speed during combat. Basically, if you use magic damage on a physical damage foe, you get extra speed, and the same for using physical damage on magic damage foes. For the Martial Master, this is the Master Monk in Japanese. They are the S rank body arts user and gets A rank staffs too. Diffuse Healer states when unit is healed by a staff, all adjacent allies also recover 50% of the HP the unit recovered. Basically the reverse of Live to Serve from past games. Healing the Martial Master also will heal your allies. Seems synergistic if you can fight or use Chain Guard, since that does cost HP. For the High Priest, this is the main healer class, but they can fight back. S rank staff, B rank tome, and C rank body arts. They are classified as mystical units, so they are the more mage focused healer versus the physical damage Martial Master. High Priest have self-healing, which lets them heal themselves with staffs. I guess that's a nice perk. Last, non-base class shown was the Thief. They start with S rank daggers and have pass, which lets them move through foes. I'm disappointed there is no assassin type promotion, but it is what it is. We did get to see Alfred and Celine's promoted class skills. Alfred's Avenir is a cavalier with A rank lance, B rank swords. Golden Lotus can prevent 50% of the damage taken. The trigger percent is equal to Alfred's dexterity stat. For Celine's Vidame or Vidam, this is a mystical unit with A rank tomes, B rank swords, and B rank staff. She has Ignis, which can add half of her strength stat to magic attacks, or half of her magic stat to all other damage. The trigger percent is also equal to her dexterity stat. The only reason I'm holding out for a third tier of classes is that Alfred and Celine do not hit S rank with their promoted classes. That is very strange to me, and they both have natural proficiencies too. Speaking of natural proficiencies, it seems certain ones may be less useful than others. For example, Celine's natural proficiency in tomes literally only affects one class, the High Priest. I think Fram's natural proficiency in body arts will also only affect the High Priest. Meanwhile, units with sword, axes, and lance proficiency get way more reclassing value. Maybe there is more to the natural proficiency mechanic, but currently it kind of just seems like certain characters got a little screwed. Let's move on to new Emblem Ring info, and I actually also have a lot to discuss here. First off, we got the Japanese trailer from Micaiah, the last Emblem Ring showcase. This was nice because, wow, a lot of the preview footage featured Micaiah in action. Emblem Micaiah is our healing specialist with some magic damage as well. Her sync skill lets any unit use staff weapons, and when engaged, the range of the staff increases by 5. In addition, the effect of the staff also increases in range, like a basic healing staff will now heal the target ally and the 4 adjacent spaces around them. Pretty cool. For her engaged weapon, Shine is a tome that is able to reveal the Fog of War. We also know Micaiah comes with her trusty Donnie to bust armor and cavalry units. For her engaged attack, Micaiah uses Great Sacrifice. She drops to 1 HP but fully heals the entire party. If used with Alir, they only drop to 30% HP instead. Interesting thing to note, Micaiah actually joins quite early and seems to join via Yunaka, the early game thief, perhaps a bit of a Soth reference who actually will bring up again. Suspiciously, Yunaka was one of the only characters not affiliated with a nation, and she is not a royal or a retainer as far as we know. Kinda begs the question, did she literally steal Micaiah's emblem ring? Alright, moving on. I have a couple notes I want to mention. Emblem Leaf seems to have the Meister Lance, which was expected, and it looks like he has Vantage too. Remember, Leaf's engage skill has been swapped to a weapon with triangle advantage automatically when he's attacked, so combining that with Vantage sounds pretty nasty. Regarding engage attacks, aka the big flashy moves, I don't think it's been specifically mentioned, but they all seem to prevent counterattacks when you use them, basically similar to gambits in 3 houses. If you weren't aware, enemies will also have emblem rings of their own, and yes, they get to use all their moves, including engage attacks. If you thought bolting mages were bad, imagine Lynn's Asher Storm from 10 spaces away, Celica's teleporting warp Ragnarok, or Sigurd just moving across the whole dang map. Now, something cool regarding engage attacks that I noticed is the unit will say a line that the emblem character says in their own game. The most obvious example is probably Hortensio saying Lucina's iconic "I challenge my fate." A lot of these phrases are also used in Fire Emblem Heroes, so you may even recognize a few from characters like Sigurd. Just a very cool reference to the main games.
One strike will decide it all.
Next, I want to discuss a couple new engaged weapons we've seen. I'm just going to be listing these. Mart's Mercurius doubles the XP gain for the user. The Falchion, of course, is effective against dragons. Celica's regular Ragnarok has very high might, and her Recover Staff seems to heal for quite a bit too. Sigurd has the Brave Lance with the standard 2 hits, and his Tearfang grants plus 5 res while also having very high might. Micaiah's other weapon will be Nosferatu, which heals the user for 50% of the damage dealt. As mentioned, her infamous Donnie has the double cabin armor effectiveness. Regarding M's skills, we got a peek at some of Celica's. Her favorite food skill seems pretty good. When unit eats a packed lunch, engage meter maxes out. That's actually strong, at least to me. For Resonance, this is a reference to how magic worked in Shadows of Valentia. If you use a tome, you lose 1 HP, but you gain 2 damage when you're fighting. Something to note, at bond level 6, Celica can teach magic proficiency, and at level 9 she teaches sword proficiency. I'm not entirely sure how it functions, but you can definitely level up certain skills. We see Celica's Holy Stance, which only reflects 10% damage back to corrupted foes. However, the showcase for Celica mentioned specifically it reflected 50% of damage back. It might just go up with bond level. Let's now just talk about some Somniel stuff, although keeping to the emblem ring topic. First off, we got an example of augmenting emblem weapons. I learned that the augments can differ for each weapon, and you can raise the number of augments with bond levels. We thought 16 was the max, but I saw 19 as well. It was also noted you can strip augments away to experiment. Something I learned was that in addition to stat boost, you can just straight up add Banes, which grant effectiveness. I'm not sure how you get these Banes, but that sounds pretty OP. To be honest, this whole augmenting the emblem weapons thing in general sounds very strong. It's like forging on steroids. Another thing we got to see was the engraving system. You can engrave regular weapons with the properties of an emblem ring. They grant stat boosts based on the character, and you can only have 1 engraving per emblem. You're free to swap them around though. In the friendly arena, you can train with emblems to raise bond levels. We knew this. I thought you would spend bond fragments to do a match, but no, you literally can pick what bond level you want to reach. Let's say later on you only get a new party member and you want them to skill inherit Mart's skills. Instead of actually battling in main chapters or skirmishes to farm that bond level, you can just buy bond level 10, assuming you have the bond fragments. Also, I don't know if the actual arena match even matters. Alir gets dumpstered by Marth, but he reaches the next bond level anyway. I don't know, just seems kind of funny to me. Last emblem related thing that we got is an important piece of information regarding bond rings. Bond rings are the gacha earned items that represent other Fire Emblem characters and grant small stat boost. Well, we learned that A, you can get S-rank bond rings in the gacha, and B, some of the S-rank rings grant entire skills. Apparently S-rank Soth straight up grants Bane, which is sort of like a weaker lethality. That is way more impactful than just a couple stats. It was noted that not every S-rank had a great skill. This seems like it'll be a community effort to find all the good S-ranks so you know who to merge up. I really feel like this mechanic has been heavily undersold, especially if they're gonna have things like Bane on an additional skill. Alright, moving on. There is quite a lot of footage of players running around with the entire Somniel if that interests you. It was mentioned that there is a day-night cycle, which I think they said you can change at will. Regarding the outfits you can buy, these did seem to only apply to when you're in the Somniel. Bit sad about that. However, you can do photo shoots with your fancy new clothes because there is some kind of player card system. Seems like that would be part of the online functionality if you do want to participate. Last bit of info for the Somniel, and arguably the most important thing we got to see, Sommie has accessories. You can rename Sommie, and it kind of just walks around and follows you in the Somniel. It really reminds me of Poogie from Monster Hunter. Sommie can also just help with fishing, although I have no clue if the ad's actually important or not. I really hope there's just kind of a stupid amount of unnecessary accessories for Sommie at this point. For the last part of this video, let's talk about new story and character info. If you're still here, I assume you're fine with light spoilers, and again, mostly everything is from pre-chapter 8. However, there are some new Japanese promos that have new footage, mostly it's just extended shots we've seen. Alright, so basically it seems confirmed we'll start the game fighting Sombron in the future, or is it the past? Also, the guy is jacked. What the heck, man? Some think this is an Awakening style premonition mission because the scene with Alir fighting through the hall with the 4 royals and their emblems ends with Marth saying this is the final battle. Alir then 1v1 Sombron with Marth. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we got footage of something that potentially happened in the past before Alir fell asleep. We see Alir turn full red, assuming they're corrupted by either Sombron or something just as evil. We get a fantastic shot of evil grinning Alir, and we also know Lumera is here when this happens. Considering Lumera is gonna kick the bucket in the main story, assumingly Alir turns evil in the way distant past, or all of this is literally happening after they wake up. If I'm being honest, I kinda am down for evil Alir to appear more often. I don't think anything major was revealed outside what we've already seen. There are some new shots of Sombron, and the only thing that is kinda spoilery is a shot of Vale holding an emblem ring. She is a very suspicious character after all. Many think she is the hooded mage who attacks Alir and Lumera. The only thing that points to that is we know a Vale can use magic herself. In regards to how far Chapter 8 is in the story, which is the limit for the embargo, it appears we will get the Brodians all together. I did not see a lot of footage of what I think is Chapter 8 itself, but one player has footage of Diamant with Roy and his retainers. This party is already quite big, and we're only adding more and more characters. Speaking of characters, we actually got a decent amount of new ones. First off, I just want to show Lumera in battle. She's going to be a tutorial boss, but she does fight and even engages with Sigurd. Mom ain't messing around. As for other royalty, we've seen Brodia's king, Morion, and Elusia's king, Hyacinth, but we've got a full look at Queen Eve from Firenze and a sneak peek at Som's queen, tentative name Sfoglia. On the topic of names, apparently Lythos is pronounced Lithos and 80 is pronounced ATA. Man, I still don't know if Alir is correct. Moving on, we got brand new playable character named Jean. A previous Japanese trailer alluded to this character existing, but we never officially saw them. In fact, they kinda were teased right in front of our eyes in one of the Twitter posts from a long time ago. It was about the talk command, and everyone kinda just assumed it was a random NPC, but that unit used in the image is actually Jean. Jean is a kid like Anna and will be another martial monk. It seems like we do need to do a paralog to get them. I don't think any reviewer actually used Jean in battle, although I very much could have missed it. In regards to older characters, we got a good long sample of the English dub throughout all this footage. There are some videos that are just pure gameplay if you want to hear characters like Rosado. We did not get any new character highlights from the Japanese Twitter account in the past week. Maybe they'll start to pick back up since they kind of seem to be out for a New Year's vacation. After watching hours of new footage and listening to various early reviewers, I'm still very hyped for Engage. Most reviewers reacted positively to the gameplay, although we only got to hear thoughts on the first 8 chapters. I think a lot of people are concerned the emblems are kinda OP, and yeah, that does seem to be the case so far. However, we really won't know until we get to play deeper into the main story. Again, enemies also will get control of emblem rings at some points, which sounds like a major pain to deal with. In regards to the main story, it didn't sound like reviewers encountered anything surprising. That is most definitely Engage's weakest aspect, at least from what we've seen so far. I don't think 8 chapters is enough to really tell though, so once again, kinda just have to experience that for ourselves. I assume we at least have to get the 4 major nations together before anything really crazy kicks off. Hopefully, since it sounds like this is a non-branching story, there's enough chapters to really get a good plot going. Overall, Fire Emblem Engage seemingly looks to deliver on the gameplay front, and hopefully the characters still get their chance to shine as well. I think it looks like a lot of fun with all the new mechanics, and you can tell the game is very polished. The animations are fantastic, and honestly, I'm enjoying the new art style with the more over-the-top tone of the game in general. We'll be back next week to discuss any new information I can gather. Less than 2 weeks to go. Let's see if they decide to reveal anything really crazy in that time. We still have to launch. Check out my past Engage videos if you haven't been up to date on the game, and check out all the links in the description if you want to watch gameplay and early reviews of Fire Emblem Engage. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.